Welcome, traders, to another Tickmill earnings report preview with me, Patrick Munnelly. Before we jump into today's report, it's important that we adhere to the risk disclaimer. The material provided is for information purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice. The views, information, or opinions expressed by me in this recording are solely mine. They're not indicative of or representative of those held by Tickmill UK or Tickmill Europe Limited. It's also important to understand that when trading CFDs, these are complex instruments and come with high risk of losing money rapidly due to leverage. 71% and 65% of retail investor accounts lose money when trading CFDs with Tickmill UK or Tickmill Europe Limited. So let's jump into today's report. We are going to take a look at American Airlines. American Airlines will report earnings at approximately 7 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, April 21st. The consensus estimate is for a loss of $2.48 per share on a revenue of $8.71 billion. There is actually a whisper on the street that we could see a slightly reduced loss of potentially down to $2.35 per share. American Airlines has seen its revenue rebound in recent quarters after suffering throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, when obviously travel plunged. But despite the rapid recovery in air travel, the company is still losing money and is now facing operational challenges after laying off much of its staff early in the pandemic. American Airlines is rushing to bolster its ranks of pilots, flight attendants, and mechanics in an effort to limit flight interruptions and delays. Investors will watch for signs that the company is recovering from the pandemic successfully when American Airlines reports. And analysts predict that the airline will report a ninth straight quarter of adjusted losses per share, but revenue is predicted to rise from the fourth consecutive quarter. Investors will also be focusing on American Airlines load factor, a key metric used by air carriers to gauge what percentage of paid passengers' seating capacity is being filled. Analysts expect the company's load factor to improve significantly year over year, but to remain below pre-pandemic levels for now. So let's take a look at some of the quantitative trading patterns around the American Airlines earnings release. The stock has moved higher in the immediate aftermath of earnings, 6 out of the last 12 reports. On average, the stock has moved up 0.4% on the first day of trading after the company's release. Based on the previous 12 earnings releases, the stock is more likely to trade lower one day after the earnings for an average loss of 2.2%. And the average post-earnings 5-day performance is minus 5.2%, 9 out of 12 occurrences there, 75% of the time. So let's look at what we can anticipate in terms of the options market and how they're pricing the potential movement of implied volatility. So the options market is pricing a 6.1% move on earnings. The stock has actually averaged a 4.1% move in recent quarters. Let's look at some of the flows here. Last Wednesday, April 13th, there was some notable buying, 8,555 contracts of the $19 call expiring on Friday. Options order flow sentiment is bullish. However, investor sentiment going into the company's earnings release is mixed, at 56% of investors expecting an earnings beat. Short interest has actually decreased by 1.4% since the company's last earnings release, while the stock has actually drifted higher, 7.8% from its open following the last earnings release to 0.5% above its 200-day moving average, which comes in at $18.91. So let's jump in and take a look at the technical setup now and see where we might have some opportunities on the trading side. So technically, what I'm looking for is versus the swing low here at $16.36, I have a quality objective which comes in at $22.41. We also have monthly projected range resistance there and these prior highs from there I've anticipated with profit taking. So any pullbacks into the trend channel support, $18.90 area, watch for bullish reversal patterns to engage on the long side, targeting initially that move up into the $22.41 area. On the weekly time frame here, you can see I have an equality objective versus the $12.46 low up to $30.30. So any pullbacks from that initial resistance into the 2240s, I'm anticipating to find support again into that 1890 area, and I want to build long positions, ultimately targeting a grind up into that $30.30 a quality objective on the upside. At this stage, really, it would take a close through this projected ascending trend channel support, so something back through $18.50 to suggest we're going to probe lower again, back into test $16 before once again trying to find some bid in the market there. We've also got that high volume node, $16.70. But for now, focus is on the upside. I'm looking for that initial test of 22.41. As always, traders, plan the trade the plan, and most importantly, manage your risk. Until next time, thanks very much.